Three, two, one. Who's the best?
Welcome to Who's the Best Doctor Who Companion. They're inquisitive and argumentative. They're entertaining and sometimes downright annoying. They're the Doctor Who companions, but which one is the best? That's what we're here to discuss today. I'm your host, Sandro Monetti from the Who's the Best podcast, and with me, a panel of experts to debate the question, which will be decided by the results of a fan survey, which we'll reveal at the end of the panel. Let's welcome our guests now. He has appeared in close to 50 episodes of New Doctor Who, always playing monsters. Everyone from Cybermen to Jadoon to Zygons. He's Jon Davey.
Hey!
That's what he looks like out of costume. Also with us, the queen of cosplay, someone so devoted to her favorite Doctor Who character, she changed her look and her name in tribute to her. It's River Alexandra Song.
Hello, sweeties.
Joining
Nice.
us also, a Doctor Who obsessive fan. What she doesn't know about the programme isn't worth knowing. Queen of the convention circuit, Julie O'Malley.
Hello.
And an actor that you know from Friends, 24 and Batman and Robin, and almost knew from Doctor Who. That's because he was cast originally as the 8th Doctor until the powers that be changed their minds a couple of weeks later and switched to Paul McGann. Are you still bitter, Harry Van Gorkum?
That's my middle name, still bitter.
Now, you didn't get the part, but I understand you did get a hat from production. I see.
This is all I got. This is all I got from all that closeness. I actually, yes, years later on another production, I saw someone wearing this hat, and it was the film unit hat from that production. So I got in my store and he said, "You deserve that hat, young man." So I wear it with pride now. It's very
And
rare.
what kind of doctor would you have been, Harry?
I would have been me. I mean, that's the great thing about the Doctor. The Doctor, you can just bring so much of yourself to the character. I can go on for hours about how great it would be to play the Doctor. The Doctor is the only character in history where you are given the keys to the TARDIS and you can do with them what you want. You can create this character which hasn't been done before. He's schizophrenic, he's multi-intelligent, he's funny, he's crazy. It's the only character in history that has that many colors and that many flavors. And I'd have eaten it up, I would have.
Well, maybe you'll get cast as a companion in future. River, what essential qualities does a companion need to be memorable?
Well, I think the companion needs to make the Doctor better throughout the time that they're with them. And I think the companion needs to be fearless and brave and pretty much have a good sense of self-preservation, because the Doctor is going to take you places that you better know how to get out of.
What else, Julie?
I like that. I like what River said, but I would also add that they need the patience of a saint, because the TARDIS, where you ask the TARDIS to go and where you actually end up going is often two different places. So you need patience. You need to have a good sense of humor and good stamina, because you're running all the time.
And Jon, you've worked with several Doctor Who companions now. In your view, what makes for a really good one?
The humanity, I think. It's kind of bringing the story back to the human touch. Obviously, the Doctor isn't human as such, and obviously, tries to help or meddle in affairs as such. So it's always nice that there's an earthling there to bring the perspective of the viewer.
Now, Harry, I understand that you have been re-watching Modern Who during lockdown with your daughters. What was it like to introduce them to the show, and how did you reflect re-watching the show on the impact of the companions on the success of the series?
Well, first of all, it was a wonderful thing for us all to find together. We've been looking for someone to watch as a family, which I've always loved. And I was worried. My youngest daughter was 7 when we started watching them. but she is never scared, never worried about it, never ever leapt behind the sofa to hide from the Cybermen. In fact, absolutely adored all the villains and endured all the darkness and lapped it up. For me, watching it again, I forgot how good the various doctors were. Chris Eccleston, I thought was unbelievable, and I really missed the fact that he didn't do more. David Tennant, who I was never a big fan of as a fellow actor, I absolutely fell in love with playing the Doctor, and I still think his relationship with Rose was one of the best relationships of any companion. Even though I will talk about this later, Rose wore off on me after a while.
Oh no! Let's talk about it now. What was your problem with Rose Tyler?
Well, Rose Tyler starts so lovely. She's so innocent. She's so thrown into this situation. She played that so well. She wanted the adventure. She had that dichotomy which so many companions have, is that do they stay home? Do they take the journey? And the Doctor never really forces them to, but he always is very clever at luring them back into the TARDIS for one last trip, which he knows will get their creative juices flowing and they'll want to stay for more. Now, Rose was great. I mean, I think the first 2 seasons she was good, wonderful. But then something happened in the 3rd season. Either she started reading and believing in her own press, I don't know what it was, but she started to become very, very cocky. They almost became like a double act. Everything was very funny. Everything was very amusing. There's so much laughter about stuff. There's so much hugging going on. She became almost an equal to the Doctor. She never had any fear. I mean, whatever situation he threw into her, she was laughing in its face like the Doctor would. But the Doctor's had 900 and so many years experience of it and knows how to handle these situations. Rose doesn't yet. So she lost a bit of her naivety.
John, Rose is your favourite companion. What do you think about what Harry said there?
Yeah, funny enough, I haven't really thought about it in a while until Harry has actually said, but yeah, I guess obviously within the writing, maybe Russell thought, oh, obviously she's kind of got used to it by now, so maybe she's a bit more flippant about the situations. But again, like what I said is that we're kind of looking at the story almost through the eyes of the companions, because we are humans. So yes, Harry is kind of right there. It would be nice that there was still a bit of jeopardy in the way that she approached things.
Now, another favourite among modern Who companions is Donna Noble. Julie, what do you think of Donna and what Catherine Tate brought to that role?
I love Donna. Donna's a firecracker, and she's argumentative, and she's angry, and she's angry. And I love that. I so identify with that character. You're
an angry person, are you, Julie?
Well, not necessarily. It's just that I don't like unexpected things. I don't like weird surprises. And to be taken from your wedding to be dumped into the TARDIS, I mean, that would honk anybody up.
Yeah, River, she had quite a character arc, didn't she, Donna?
Oh, yes. I mean, Donna grew, and that was so amazing. And that was the best thing about her. She started out being angry at everything. And then after she thought about it, she went looking for the Doctor because she wanted to go with him. She didn't like her life, and she had an overbearing mother, and that didn't help.
John, talk to us about Martha Jones and what you think that character brought to the series.
It's very difficult being objective over people that you've worked with as well. Freema was absolutely lovely. She's so nice on set. So, you know, regardless of her performance, unfortunately, I'm kind of swayed by her also as well. She's kind of hot as well. So, you know.
Wow.
But
was it difficult to concentrate, you know, on your placing and your acting if your tongue is hanging out of the cyber costume, you know, watching Freema Agyeman?
Well, one of the episodes where there was a lot of interaction was the episode with the Hath. So we couldn't really hang our tongues out as such. We could just blow lots more bubbles excitingly. But it was quite nice because there was a shot where we had to kind of stroke her hair, which was kind of sprung on us. So all of a sudden, Farima had all of these hats kind of caressing her, but she seemed to do it anyway.
Harry, what did you make of Martha Jones and her contribution to the show?
I just want to watch that scene of them stroking her hair again and see how long it actually goes on for, and seeing if one hat just keeps on going and doesn't stop. I love Martha. I thought Martha was fantastic. I thought she had the intelligence because she's a doctor herself. You know what I mean? She was a doctor as well, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep, and so her, I loved her. I mean, number one, she was very attractive, but in a very sort of, you know, common sense sort of way, and very sort of physical. And I really liked the way that she trusted the doctor very quickly, and that's really important for a companion. And that's what the doctor is looking for in his companions, is the fact that if he tells you to do something which is outrageous, you do it, and by doing it, you gain his trust, and he knows he can rely on you in a situation. And she was very quick to pick up on that.
It was a great experience in my life as a Whovian when one of my friends actually became a Doctor Who companion. I'm talking about my old mate Bradley Walsh, playing Graham. Now let's go to you, Julie. Be kind. What did you think of my mate?
I like Graham.
Hey.
I think out of this last iteration of the Doctor Who and her companions, I think Graham was my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
He was the grounder. He was the voice of reason when it was necessary, and he was game for anything, which I think it's because he felt like he didn't have anything to lose. You know, he'd already been through so much in his life. He had cancer, he lost his wife. He doesn't have anything left to lose, so he just goes for it. He was my favorite companion of 13s.
Now, Brad has been a footballer, a comedian, a game show host, a Doctor Who companion, huge personality. John, what's he like to work with?
He's great. In fact, I have actually worked, vaguely worked, I would say, with Bradley before. There was a television show, and it was called Keep It in the Family, and it was kind of a take on the Generation game. So it was ITV's version of the Generation game, where I was a glamorous magician's assistant, and they had the table of death. So I did meet Bradley for the first time then. Yeah, Bradley's great, and anyone in Britain know he's probably the hardest working person on television, because he seems to just constantly be working and doing various different things. But yeah, he was always very light-hearted, a joker on set as well. I guess the only thing from the show is I felt that maybe he could have had kind of more dialogue as such. There were certain episodes where he was just kind of there, and I guess it's quite difficult when you do have a lot of companions to actually make them all interact within the story. So the only thing is I would have rather him had more lines as such.
Harry, your favourite companion from Modern Who is Rory. Why did he stand out above the rest in your mind?
Well, I mean, it's Amy and Rory. They're a double act, but I love the way that Rory's character just slowly, because you didn't expect him to become a companion. I mean, you thought he was going to go after episode 2 or 3. His storyline had rolled over and done, but he kept on cropping up again as this kind of joke character. I mean, he was almost like just a foil for Doctor Who's humor. But gradually his relationship with Amy develops, and his love of her develops intensely. And I just love his loyalty. He has this incredible loyalty to the Doctor and to Amy, of course. I mean, as the Centurion soldier, he's, you know, waiting outside for her for 200,000 years or something. So he has this incredible loyalty, and he's a classic example, as I was speaking about earlier, which is the trust in the Doctor and just believing in the Doctor and letting him lead the way and following his rules. I mean, he's stubborn. He will stand up to him, and he will question him sometimes when he thinks he's gone too far. But on the whole, he is the most loyal companion and just a really, really strong spirit.
Julie, what would you add to that?
I love the chemistry between Amy, Rory, and the doctor. Because I mean, those were like the cool kids in school that you wanted to hang out with because they were the smartest and they were the funniest and they got in the most trouble. And those are the people you wanted to hang out with. But they played off of each other so well. And it was almost like they could read each other's minds, and their dialogue was effortless and their humor was effortless, and they got mad at each other like a family, and it just felt right. That was above and beyond my favorite combination of characters in Doctor Who modern.
A dynamic duo indeed. River, give us your appreciation of Amy Pond.
Amy Pond, who can't appreciate her. She's my mother. But Amy is feisty. My favorite line of Amy's is when Rory says, well, he's a Time Lord. And she says, it's just what they're called. It doesn't mean they know what they're doing. Amy sees things as they are. Rory knows way more than you expect, as when he explained exactly how the TARDIS is bigger on the inside to Canton Everett Delaware III, when he was looking around and he went, oh, it's transdimensional and blah, blah, blah. So I love Amy and Rory. I think they're tough. I think they're totally devoted to each other. And I think it really, really cut a piece of the Doctor's heart out when he lost them.
Do you love Clara equally?
No. No, sorry, do not. She wants to be the Doctor, and really badly, and tell the Doctor what to do. And it's more than not just saying, listen, you just don't understand. It's like, no, listen to me because I know it's right and I know how you do this and I'm going to do it, and then ending up dead. But no, don't like Clara.
Harry, I saw you give a thumbs down when I mentioned Clara's name. What's the problem?
I don't know. I mean, she's really cute. Let's not get me wrong. She's very, very attractive and very cute. And the actress who's playing her is on television all over the place now. I mean, she's everywhere. I just found her character. I agree with River. She was kind of. She wanted to take the reins too quickly. She wanted to be that person too quickly. She kind of knew it before she should know it. And it's part of her storyline because she keeps on appearing up to the Doctor in different times, as different characters, and it's a great introduction as an assistant because you're not sure. She doesn't know why she's there. She believes that she's in that time period. She doesn't know she's been somewhere else. The Doctor, the mystery of Clara is wonderful. I just found her character somehow, it just grated on me, and I can't understand why. I can't explain it. There was something about her that just wasn't right as a companion.
Julie, are River and Harry being unfair, Julie?
Well, I didn't want to like Clara because I loved Amy and Rory so much. And so when they left, it was just such a jarring thing to have this person show up and be such a completely different character. What I like about Clara is from the very first time we see her in the Snowmen, she's absolutely fearless. I mean, it's Victorian era. Here is a carriage in the street and Strax is driving and she doesn't even blink. I mean, most people would run screaming from Strax, but she just walks in eyes wide open and completely ready for whatever the Doctor has to throw at her, even though she has no clue what that might be. And I always liked that about her.
Well, that's several of the companions from modern era Doctor Who. For the purposes of this survey, the likes of River Song and Captain Jack are not technically considered companions because they didn't go on continuing journeys in the TARDIS. But does anyone want to give an appreciation other than River for River Song?
Yeah, well, again, I met Alex a few times on set, and kind of it's weird. You meeting famous people. It's you know, it's the old I carried a watermelon moment from Dirty Dancing. You know, I got that with Peter Capaldi all the time. I just could not function when I just saw his face. There was just something about it that he was not of this world. But Alex was really lovely. I met her on The Husbands of River Song when it was like the restaurant scene before the Hydroflax came in. And I was dressed as an alien in an amazing prosthetic and an amazing costume, and I'm a dot in the background as always. But yeah, she was very nice, and she said how wonderful I looked, and then I started trying to say, well, no, you look more wonderful than me. But yeah, River's character is it's absolutely phenomenal, because you didn't quite know who she was, where she was coming from, and obviously all of that kind of got wrapped up in the end. But there was always a mystery about her, and the way that that Alex played her was just absolutely fantastic. Top.
Now, for River and Julie, can you relate to what Jon was saying there about meeting Doctor Who stars and maybe feeling a bit tongue-tied? You're both nodding. Julie, why don't you share an experience that you've had with a companion?
Well, I met John Barrowman, Captain Jack, and he's just exactly like Captain Jack. The man is insane, and he is absolutely ready to go anywhere, do anything, show any body part that you want to see.
Yeah.
He's a nutball. He's crazy and so much fun and so very funny.
And River, your experience of running into these huge stars?
Oh, well, so many. I have met Jon, and I think the last time I met him at Gallifrey, my first comment to him was, "Are my eyelashes on straight?" And he leaned in and said, "Yeah, you're fine." And then we continued to drink, because you can only ask that to somebody that put their eyelashes on while they were singing and dancing in La Cage aux Folles. He would know. I've also had the lovely pleasure of meeting Peter Davison. And asking him to sign my diary and telling him that he couldn't sign his name, which confused him completely. He said, "Well, then what do I sign?" I said, "Well, just sign the Doctor." He says, "But how will you know?" And I said, "Well, it's my diary. I'll know." And he's going, no, it should be signed. He says, "Well, who else has signed?" I says, "Well, Colin signed." He says, "Well, what did Colin sign?" I said, "He signed Old 60. And he went, "All right, I'm signing it the 5-ish." And so then later in the day, I went to get a picture with him, and I got the biggest hug that I wasn't expecting. But I love them all.
Harry, I just want to pick up on something Jon said about how, the carry the watermelon moment, how people get overwhelmed. You've worked with the biggest stars, everyone from George Clooney to Jennifer Aniston. There's one thing being a fan of these folks, there's another thing working with them in scenes. How do you, as an actor, put the fanboy aside and go into professional mode? How easy is that?
I don't know. I mean, it's a hard one, because when I first walk on set, I'm always very nervous about meeting these people, because Sylvester Stallone, was huge, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, those people, they are larger than life, and they've had so much history behind them. George Clooney was all right because he was kind of my generation, but it's the older established actors, or the huge movie stars but as soon as you walk on set and you're with them, then it becomes a team thing. That there is no ego, and you're all working on the same platform, and you're working at the same pace. And there's never any, I've never worked with and I've worked with major stars. I've never worked with any of them who have any way been arrogant or bigger than they should be, or think they're really important. They've all been just an actor's actor working with you as another actor.
Yeah, I get particularly starstruck meeting Doctor Who legends, and especially from the classic era. Now, Jon, what was it like when you met Katie Manning?
So the first time I met Katie, it was on the set of the Sarah Jane Adventures. So I think it was an episode called Death of the Doctor. And I was playing one of the Shan-sheath, which was those kind of turkey vulture creatures. Or in fact, technically,
Did you have to wear any makeup for that, John?
No, but technically, I wasn't playing the Shan-sheath. I was playing the right arm of the Shan-sheath.
Oh.
So the main Shan-sheath was played by Paul Casey, that played pretty much all the lead hero monsters in Doctor Who. Then he went on and worked on Star Wars for 5 years. Well done. So basically, it was a giant puppet. So it was kind of, that was the head, and you had your left hand, and then the right hand was doing like a Napoleon all the time. So there's a few scenes. There's one where Shan-sheath's playing a harp, and then there's banging on the console, banging on the TARDIS door, where they needed a right hand. So literally, I was underneath the cape with my arm around Paul's waist, stretching my arm and kind of running around with him blind, being his phantom limb as such. So so that's where I got to meet Katie, and there was a scene, I think they were crawling through a duct or something like that, and then a hand comes in and pulls them out. So basically, I was there as the hand. So basically, I was there, and I was like, oh, it's Katie Manning. I've never met her before. And then they said, right, this is the scene. You put your hand in and you pull her out, and then she just held my hand.
How comforting. It's like your childhood reaching out and holding your hand, I would imagine. Just wonderful. Katie, of course, played Jo Grant, companion to the Third Doctor. River, give us an appreciation of that companion, you know, in a very different time, but a timeless performance in a way.
It is. And the thing about Katie is that Jo Grant stands up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she respects the Doctor, but he's a little bit of a chauvinist. And she kind of has to push her way through. And she makes sure that everyone is taken care of. She's smart. She's clever. She talks to the aliens when the Doctor won't, and often advances things far more than others. She's a template of companions to come.
Would you agree with that, Harry?
I do. I mean, I liked her a lot. I like the fact that she was. If you watch her, whenever they first appear in another time or planet or wherever they are, she's the first one to come up with the reason why they're there. She's always the one who comes up with the lie, so to speak. You know, that why are you here? And she was always very quick with that. And I always found their relationship was almost like she sort of saw the Doctor as a sort of like a school teacher, like a sort of older school teacher who she sort of admired, but sometimes she had to steer in the right direction about how to handle people and how to treat people, especially like River said, how to respect people, not be such a chauvinist. So she was this lovely, very gentle, because she was incredibly gentle and soft-spoken, but she had this really strong inner force, and she kind of guided the Doctor, which was really beautiful. It was the first companion who really did that.
Another beloved companion of the 1970s, Sarah Jane Smith, played by Elizabeth Sladen. Julie, why don't you start us off there?
She's my favorite. She is my favorite companion. First of all, she set the standard. You know, really, she is the one that embodied the companion ideal for the first time. She's smart. She was funny. She was incredibly patient. And she had such an amazing story arc from the time that she showed up until she showed up again with David Tennant. And in the Sarah Jane Chronicles, I mean, she was a force to be reckoned with. And I think when they cast Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor, I think somewhere in the back of their mind, they had Sarah Jane's idea in mind when they cast her.
John, what would you add to that?
Well, Sarah Jane was my first exposure to a Doctor Who companion. So my earliest memories were Tom's episodes. I don't know what the earliest one I can actually remember, but I can remember watching The Hand of Fear and Talons, and it's quite interesting. Obviously, from a perspective when you're maybe only 6 or 7 watching a program, because obviously we can all watch something on television now and we can, you know, intellectualize exactly what we're watching. But obviously, as a child, you don't generally have these thoughts. But from my memories as a child, there was, I don't know, I was very captivated by her. I couldn't quite work out why as such, but there's just something very warm about her as a child that I just was gravitated to, just in the same way that Tom's Doctor as a kid I was just amazed by, because there's just this huge confident guy, and I've never come across a male role model like this before. How do you find rewatching something that you only had memories of as a child?
It gives me a lot of comfort and joy, and I tend to contrast it with modern era Who. And because I'm just a big nostalgia freak, I just think it was better then. And the last two companions that we mentioned, Joe Grant and Sarah Jane Smith, it seemed the emotional connection with the Doctors was so strong back then. I remember the famous line from John Pertwee, "A tear, Sarah Jane," and the heartbreaking moment when Tom Baker says goodbye to Sarah Jane as well. And rewatching those episodes in preparation for this, people tend to forget about all the emotion in Doctor Who. They tend to think it wasn't there, but it really was if you look for it. You're watching Who's the Best Doctor Who Companion. If you're wondering why yours hasn't been mentioned yet, we can't get to them all, but we have been focusing on the ones who scored highest in our survey. That's right, listeners of the Who's the Best podcast have been voting for their favorite companion. I'll reveal the results at the end of the show, but I just want to quickly go over some others we haven't mentioned yet, throw out names, and anyone can just jump in. Perry.
Oh, God, no. Screams way too much.
Are you okay, River?
Yes. Perry just never stopped screaming. She's just Doctor, and it's just like fingernails on a blackboard.
You didn't like the first American companion?
No, and she wasn't American.
She wasn't American. They couldn't find an American actress, apparently. Okay, what about, oh, there goes Harry. He's walked off in disgust, you know, so so maybe he's gone to find his daughters and can tell us what their opinion is. Harry, bring in your daughters and tell us what they think in a moment.
Bring in the daughters. Come on,
yes.
Sophie.
Harry mention, of course, that he's been rewatching Doctor Who with his daughters. Hi, is it Sophie?
Yes.
Hi, Sophie. Who's your favourite Doctor Who companion?
My favourite one is Rose Tyler, because whenever she goes back in time, and a man treats her like they shouldn't, she always stands up for herself.
What an excellent point. Yes. Now, none of you expert panelists made that point, but that was great. Thank you very much, Sophie. Now, your daddy seems to think Rose Tyler isn't very good. What do you think of Daddy for saying that?
What? I didn't know that. Thanks for keeping me in it. No, I love it.
Sorry, I'm causing family problems there. Let me throw out the name of another companion, Chameleon. Any thoughts on the robot companion Chameleon?
Well, he had no backbone, really, and he wasn't really so much of a companion as he was the Master's pet, and he was abused and he was tortured, and I think they were thinking of a much larger storyline for him, but because of real practical issues with the robot, that just kind of dissolved and he never got a story. And so he always felt like an afterthought to me.
Let's throw out some other names. What about Ace? Fantastic companion, right?
I
Not
like
so much,
Ace.
Harry? Yeah.
She beats things up. She goes after a Dalek with a baseball bat. I cannot love that.
I think Ace was my first, and I think I was kind of attracted to Ace because Ace used to climb up and down ladders a lot wearing stockings.
Yes, regular viewers or listeners of Who's the Best can acquaint themselves with Harry's lust for Sophie Aldred. You can listen to our shows on the Who's the Best podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Who's the Best.fm, and David Tennant is among the guests on that show, Who's the Best. And if you want to watch Harry and I interviewing Sylvester McCoy, you can watch a televised episode of Who's the Best. Just go to bigstreamentertainment.com to watch for free, bigstreamentertainment.com, where Sylvester McCoy reveals his favorite Doctor Who monsters. But today's subject, of course, is who's the best Doctor Who companion. Before we go to the results, I just want to give you an opportunity to mention a couple of others. Adric. Silence. Okay. Should I imply if you don't say anything, you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all? No,
Yeah, he's too smart. He's too smart for his own good, and he knows it. He was so
there's
annoying.
nothing wrong with being smart, is there, Julie? Look at me, I'm super
Well, being
intelligent.
smart is okay, but to be pushy about your wisdom, and I mean, he's so annoying. He was so annoying. I have to say, I was not sorry when he died.
Well, I was watching live that shocking moment in the early 80s when Adric sort of died, and that was a new experience for me to see a Doctor Who fan die. And the BBC, they just played the final credits over silence. But if you could have seen my house, you'd have heard, hey! I was doing a party, doing the happy dance, because Adric was gone. However, ironically, I'm a huge fan of Matthew Waterhouse and his writing and his book as well. So I can separate sometimes the actor and the character, which I think is very important. Turlough's another one. Mark Strickson, someone we've enjoyed meeting at conventions as well. Tegan, another favorite of mine. Is there anyone else that we haven't mentioned before we go to the vote that you think deserves a mention in the long history of Doctor Who companions?
Is K9 technically a companion?
Well, a K9, sure, yes.
Leela.
I'm not a canine fan.
Why, you hate dogs?
No, I love dogs. I hate the 70s and 80s. They seem to have this idea that smart shows needed something really stupid as comic relief because they couldn't write the comic relief into the script, and so they would come up with this artificial thing for comic relief, and it was so annoying. It was pandering, and it felt like I didn't like K9. I think K9 was a construct that didn't need to be there.
Well, from Susan through to Yaz, we've watched them all. They are imprinted on our memories. They are the Doctor Who companions. But who's the best? Well, I'm about to reveal the results. Our panelists don't know, so this will become as a surprise to them as well as you. The listeners of Who's the Best have declared that the top 3 Doctor Who companions in reverse order are, in 3rd place, Rose Tyler.
Oh, surprised.
In 2nd place, Amy Pond.
Ooh.
And the best Doctor Who companion, according to the surveyed fans, Sarah Jane Smith.
Yay.
We speak to you today, 10 years on from the sad death of Liz Sladen. And what a legacy she left behind. It just shows that when you consider the modern era of Who and the classic era, from all those great performers, it's Sarah Jane Smith that still emerges as number 1. Before we go today, can I get a reaction from all of you to the 3 1. Rose Tyler third, Amy Pond second, first Sarah Jane Smith. Julie?
I have to say I agree with that.
Mhm.
Rose started off with Christopher Eccleston in the modern version of Doctor Who and started it. Amy, can't say good enough things about Amy, and of course Sarah Jane is the best.
Yeah. And so River, 3 women in the top 3.
I'm absolutely thrilled that Sarah Jane is in the top. Rose was fine with 9 and then got too gushy with 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big fan of Amy. I think Amy is the modern equivalent of Sarah Jane.
Jon Davey, what's your reaction to the result?
Is good. I possibly would have put Rose before Amy. I loved the character of Amy, but I don't know what it. Maybe I went out with a girl who looked a bit like her, and the problem was I was just picturing Amy Pond's attitude, picturing my ex, and I'm like, oh my god, she would be so annoying. So I found it very difficult to warm to her because yeah, she was feisty, but I generally don't go for feisty women. I go for cuddly, lovely ones.
When you ask a question, you never quite know what reaction you're going to get. Harry, have you been out with anyone who looked like a Doctor Who companion, be it Amy Pond or K9?
K9, yes. Amy Pond, no. I mean, Rose, my ex-wife looked a bit like Rose, and maybe that's why I'm a bit anti her nowadays. I've no idea. I think that's a really good decision by the voters. I agree with that. Rose is, as I said, I've got nothing against Rose. As everyone agrees, I think she later on in the episode she became a bit too confident about the whole thing. But it could be the writing, could be anything.
So we'll end by looking ahead. Now, John Bishop, the British funny man, has been cast as the new companion. Anyone care to jump in and saying what they're expecting or anticipating? Oh, Harry, you're shaking your head. What's the problem?
I find it very hard to see. I don't know why. I just find it really hard to see someone with that much charisma and confidence and kind of history for the English viewers, to see him as a kind of sidekick. I think it's going to be very hard. Do
you think he's going to overshadow the Doctor?
I think it could be. I mean, listen. Also, I've never actually seen him doing dramatic acting. I don't know if he's done anything before. I may be wrong, but I've no idea how good an actor he's going to be. So I don't know if he will. But I think it's a very strong bit of casting to put next to Jodie Whittaker, personally.
What do you think about his casting, John?
I don't know. After Harry said that, is he going to be the new K9?
Oh,
well, we will see.
Yeah, it is difficult because I'm a big comedy fan and I really like John Bishop's comedic stand-up routines. And again, I don't think I've actually seen him in anything dramatic. So. It's difficult. I guess we can't pass judgment until we actually see it, and then we can pass judgment as such. But it's unusual. It's an unusual choice. And again, is John Bishop's he's just got one of those faces that it's John Bishop. There isn't, it's like Peter Capaldi. It's just one of those faces which are just so unique as well. So sometimes casting unknowns is quite good because you don't have a kind of a frame of reference of.
Well, yes, for what you're saying is true for the British audience, but of course, Doctor Who is an international show. So let's ask our 2 non-British panelists. Julie, it's a comedian. It'd be nice to have some comedy in the TARDIS, don't you think?
I think there's been plenty of comedy in the TARDIS, with the Kerblam episode was hilarious at the beginning when she got her box. But I feel that Yaz and 13 are kind of getting shortchanged. They keep bringing, why will they not allow two women being in the TARDIS together and see where that goes? You know, I think Yaz was underutilized, and this would be an opportunity to show who she is and what she can do and watch her character grow instead of bringing in a new companion. I don't think 13 needs multiple companions.
River, what do you think of that?
I don't completely agree. I think a balance of 2 will be better than it was with 3. I do think that Yaz was very underwritten and underappreciated and underused. I mean, I kind of expected Yaz to be the next Gwen Cooper. But I'm really kind of excited to see what John Bishop will do, because I'm not that familiar with him. I've seen a few things, but you know, a lighter touch, and certainly Bradley had a lighter touch as well. And maybe that balance will work better without Ryan.
Now, John, the Doctor has never had a monster companion. Has it ever crossed your mind in those 50 or so episodes when you've been a Jadoon, a Cyberman, or all these other creatures, that maybe the Doctor is going to take me with him? And do you think it's time for the Doctor to share the TARDIS with one of these alien monsters?
You know what? I've never thought about that until you've actually mentioned it. That is a good point. It's well, he did have handles for a while.
He did have handles, yes. Yeah.
I never really understood the backstory of that. It kind of just appeared. Yeah, if that would actually be, well, for me, that would be amazing if that ever did happen. But yeah, having a monster, yeah, it's not happened before, has it?
No, and the wonderful thing about acting careers, Harry, is that you never know what's around the corner. Now, back in 96, you were so nearly the Doctor, but I think you'd make a fantastic Doctor Who companion. Now, if the powers that be are watching this, just, you know, are you available and are you interested in being the sidekick, or do you only ever want to be the star?
Let me think about that for a minute. Yes! If I could get on the TARDIS, I mean, my God, to walk through that door and say that line, it's bigger on the inside. I mean, come on. Any chance you get to be on that show, you know, I would do it. And to be the companion to Jodie, my God, that'd be fantastic. It would be wonderful. I mean, I'd have to be, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it would be a strange, I mean, John Bishop, I mean, we're about the same age. I mean, yes, it could work. So yeah, I would love to do that. I would. It would be a fantastic part to play. It would from my knowledge of Doctor Who, I think would really help, because I could step back and just do all the things that I think a companion should do.
Well, if you're watching BBC, Harry is available. And talking of fantastic and wonderful, it's been fantastic and wonderful to have your company for this discussion on who's the best Doctor Who companion. We are now all off to regenerate. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Blogtor Who, for hosting it, and enjoy all your adventures in space and time. From me and the panelists, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.